today. Agrod and I are actually meeting at our office in person today and doing the AMA from there. And we are having some technical difficulties, or I'm having some technical difficulties, but it seems to be all good now, assuming you guys can hear me. And Agrod is finishing up another call right now, so he'll be in a minute. So I will get things kicked off in the meantime. I'll try to do my best Agrod introduction. All right, welcome everybody. It is Friday, May 28th at 9 a.m. Eastern, and we are here for our regular weekly Splinterlands AMA. We also had a special AMA last night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, which ended up going for 2 hours to discuss the Splintershards token announcement. But for those of you who couldn't make that time, hopefully you can make it now, and we'll be happy to, kind of rehash some of the things we talked about last night and go over any of the new questions that you guys have today. So I am trying to pull up the chat here and see what questions we have. But before we start the questions, I'll just give hopefully a quicker than last night overview of the announcement and of everything that's going on. So obviously the announcement is that we are releasing a new token, which is going to be called Splintershards and abbreviated SPS. And it is the primary function is going to be a governance token, which we'll talk about in more detail. But there's many more facets to the token than just governance, which, it's important that, all of you guys understand. And it might be hard, within the white paper document, even though they're all described, it might be hard to kind of wrap your head around the details of all that. So I'll spend a few minutes kind of talking about each thing.
Hey, this is a voice of Agrod. Happy to be here. Can they hear me okay, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I'm using my little headphone microphones.
Yeah, this should. They can. Will somebody answer? Can you guys hear me? Okay.
He says you're loud and clear.
Great. Okay. Well, this is the voice of Agrod. Sorry, I was a couple minutes late talking to one of our partners, and actually bringing a new partner on board. So pretty excited about that. And yeah. So why don't we? This is meant to be mostly. Still the special AMA covering the SPS, but it's also going to be, if there are some questions by the end of this, then maybe we can cover those that are just kind of regular AMA stuff. But just from a high level, Matt, why don't you walk us through kind of what the big picture is? Why is governance so exciting? Is it just governance, or what are the big buckets of categories that this project is covering?
Yeah, so definitely not just governance, although governance is one of the primary, and I think one of the coolest features. And there's a lot of projects that have governance tokens. They're kind of a hot thing these days, and in many cases, in my opinion, they're actually kind of boring or mostly useless. But I don't think that is going to be the case here in the governance aspect. We talked about this, a few times, but the idea is that all of the parameters and variables and configuration options that exist in Splinterlands, and all new ones that are going to exist, will be directly able to be affected by the governance voting. So anyone will be able to submit a proposal that will include whatever changes they'd like to make to any parameters within the game. I mean, and there's all sorts of things. I'll just give a few examples. There's, tournaments, the schedule, settings, prizes, all that stuff, card stats, rewards, quests, loot box rewards, loot chest rewards, season rewards, leaderboard rewards, battle settings, the time limits, mana cap info, rule sets, splinters, dark energy crystal inflations. Every single one of those parameters, people can submit governance proposals, and if those are approved, it'll just be automatically picked up and implemented in the code. So it's not the type of situation where a proposal is approved and then we have to go say, okay, we agree with it and decide to do it. It's just going to be automatically done as part of the code base for the game. And that's both for in-game governance and also for the governance of the DAO and the token itself on the Binance Smart Chain contract. So, if people don't like the rate at which the token is being minted, or the amount that goes into different reward pools, or even how the governance voting works, those all can be changed via a proposal that passes the governance vote. So we think that's going to be really cool, and we don't currently know of any games that have that type of system that exists today. And it's going to just really take the player kind of ownership, not just of the assets but of the entire game, to a whole new level, which is really what we're going for overall.
Right. So how do you see this thing impacting players? So what happens to the average player, and then how does this not only impact the player, but how is this going to impact the overall ecosystem for the game?
Yeah, so obviously, players will be much more empowered as far as their ability to control the game with the tokens. But I also understand that there's going to be a large group of players who probably just don't really care about that stuff. So that's part of why there's way more to the token than just governance voting. So one important area that's not completely fleshed out yet is the offers and promotions section of the white paper, which would basically, the idea is, Splinterlands provides value to the SPS tokens by using them, allowing them to be used in the game, and earned in the game, and things like that. But also, the SPS tokens provide value to Splinterlands, the company and the ecosystem and the assets, because by using the assets and playing and winning battles and participating in tournaments and all that stuff, you earn more tokens. So it's like a symbiotic relationship there. So it's in our best interest to encourage and incentivize people to gain, acquire and hold and stake the tokens as much as possible. So that's what the offers and promotion section is. It's talking about. It's pretty much everything that we do in the game going forward, all the promotions, all the airdrops, anything really, tournaments. We're going to try to, we're going to have requirements for SPS tokens staked, or other various things, in order to try to promote players to acquire and hold and stake the tokens. So I think that's going to be pretty important, for players who are interested in getting the most out of the game and out of their assets. They're going to be heavily incentivized to hold and stake governance tokens.
So tell me about the player staking, because I think that's one of the more innovative parts of this. There's so many components, and I like them all, but when I read through your plans on how that player staking was working, I was like, I haven't seen this anywhere in crypto. This is really cool. So can you highlight that some and just kind of walk us through, how does it work? What does player staking do? What does it do for the person staking it? And what does it do for the player who's getting those tokens staked on them?
Yeah, I agree too. This was one of my favorite things about building this entire thing, because obviously we're a game, and playing the game is the most important thing, really, at the end of the day. So most tokens, in DeFi and governance, it's typically you stake them and you earn some amount of new tokens. That's it. You just stake and you just get your new tokens based on your stake amount. But that doesn't really fit into what we're trying to do here, which is encouraging gameplay, and encouraging players to try to increase their collections and perform better. So the idea is you'll stake governance tokens, but you don't earn anything just for staking them. You then have to actually allocate them to specific players. It could be yourself. It could be other players. You could split it up, some on, around 100 different players, or really however you want. There's going to be no limits or restrictions or cooldowns or anything for moving and switching around your staking on players. And the idea is, the better a player performs in ranked battles, basically the higher their win rate, and their rating, the more SPS tokens they will earn, both for themselves and for others who stake tokens on them. And the idea is that players, will either earn very little or potentially no tokens if they don't have any SPS staked on them at all. And the more that a player has staked on them, the more they'll be able to earn themselves and for the people staking on them. So basically, it heavily incentivizes people to want to move up the ranked ladder. It should hopefully heavily incentivize people to buy more cards. And also it'll work very similar to how the dark energy crystal rewards work, with the energy capture rate and the bonuses for the older cards and gold foil cards and all that stuff. So players who have that, players who are using, a bunch of alpha gold foil cards and getting very high rating will be able to earn a lot more SPS for SPS stakers that stake their tokens on those players, which will encourage more people to stake their tokens on those players, which means the players themselves will earn more. So it's a really cool scenario where, I mean, even if, let's say, you're a player who's just renting a set of cards because you don't have a bunch of money to put into the game, you may not actually own any Splinterlands assets yourself or own any SPS tokens. But if you are a good player and you're able to get higher ratings and win a lot of matches, you'll encourage a lot of tokens to be staked on you from other people, and you'll be able to earn a lot yourself just from that. So you can read more about the details in the white paper. But yeah, this is something that we had someone bring up last night is probably should be more front and center with this whole thing and more attention around. We do think it's really cool, and like Agrod said, we don't know of any other projects that are doing this either.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's really groundbreaking, and it's just a fantastic new innovation into crypto projects entirely. So I feel like it captures a lot of what people like about sports betting and being excited about fantasy and feeling like they're part of that player, that guy is helping me win money and they're doing great, and that kind of allegiance. But here we're doing it without even having to wager anything, and so it's not actually betting. It's like you get all these benefits and affiliations and coolness, but without some of the legal headaches of actually placing wagers or something like that. So I feel like there's a lot of just a whole new avenue to explore with how you can stake on individual players, and at some point maybe stake on individual guilds or teams or whatever. I mean, I'm not just talking about the game, but what Matt invented with this is just so freaking cool. So I think, are there other big components that we need to hit? Actually, one that I want to hit is the marketing side of this. So we haven't spent a ton of marketing. Some of that is because when we've done marketing, it hasn't always led to huge player increases. We've tested out different Facebook ads and YouTube. There hasn't been much on Twitter, but we've tried things. We'll get some players, but they don't always stick around, and so it hasn't looked like a good use of our money. But one of the things that's coming with this is we're building a partnership with a company called Market Across, and they're a big PR firm and marketing firm. And so having them as both an investor and us being a client of theirs, I think is going to go a long way to helping us get some of that eyeballs that we've never seen before. I mentioned last night and previously that we got our first venture capital investment. And for those that were able to listen to the recording or listen to Andrew live, you're just going to hear a really enthusiastic guy that likes our project, likes the team, likes where we're going, and sees the vision here. And having him and that the pool of resources that he has, that's so huge. And then we're seeing, there's lots of different mid-sized venture capital firms and angel investors that are now getting involved with us that want to go own some of this token. And then finally, we have a whole bunch of influencers that, these are names that when you go on Twitter, you'll find them. When you go on YouTube, you'll find them. These are names that you'll know, and we're getting those folks on board and excited. Some of them are purchasing tokens, and I think just the noise level of our game in the ecosystem as a whole is going to go up, because I often feel like we are the best known or the best project in crypto that you may not have heard of. And even though we've been here 3 years and we have close to 100,000 registered users, I still feel that sometimes, but I think with this, we're finally ready to move from here's this quiet project that's quietly building and turning something really awesome out into a project that's finally coming, front and center into the crypto world, and then hopefully moving beyond that into even larger pastures as we bring on bigger and bigger partners. So from the tech side, I think Matt has created something really amazing and brilliant out of not just governance, but this whole Oracle system, the staking system. The calling it just governance is underselling it, but the whole Splintershard ecosystem is pretty awesome. And then what that's doing for us as a business on the marketing and partnership side, and also our finances, is fantastic as well. Matt mentioned that we've had in our business, crypto is so erratic, and we at one point were worried about the business a couple of years ago of like, will this survive this downturn? Are we going to have enough money? Will we be able to do this? And so we try to be conservative in some ways and make sure that there's enough runway that even if all of our sales stop for 6 months, that we'd be okay. And we've gotten there. We're at that point. But now all of this SPS stuff and money coming in and the investment coming in, we're finally beyond just having enough cash to survive a difficult time. And now we're into the position where, all right, we have to worry about where we're going to allocate our capital, how we're going to grow this team, what people we're going to bring on board. And it's time to really start expanding out of, bootstrap startup mode into the next level of us as a business. So those are parts that I see working well here.
Yeah, I think overall that's also part of the reason like why Binance Smart Chain for this. So we were designing all this and for a while, and the initial thinking was that it would all just be built on Hive, like everything we've currently built with bridges to the other chains like normal. But we've received a lot of criticism over the years, and rightfully so, that while we built cool stuff that people like, we haven't gained general broader attention in the crypto community, and compared to other projects which are much worse in pretty much every way, but they're on bigger networks like Ethereum, and they just bring in tons of money and tons of interest that we haven't been able to generate. So here, we didn't want, even though there's a lot of cool things that we just talked about involved in this, we also wanted to make this be our big splash and entrance into the larger crypto community that we haven't been able to capture lately. So that's why that's specifically why we chose Binance Smart Chain, in addition to the fact that obviously Ethereum would be the first choice, but we also didn't want it to be the case where you had to spend $10 to $20 every time you wanted to stake tokens or do a governance vote or anything like that, because we feel that participation's especially important in something like governance voting. But basically having the token live and be based on Binance Smart Chain with the smart contracts there, it just opens up tons and tons of opportunities. And you'll start seeing that as we start to announce the partnerships, which are all people who are investing in the token through the private sale. And that it literally would not have happened if this was Hive based. Like none of these people would be on board. And since they're investing in the token, they are directly financially incentivized to go use their networks and their influence and whatever they can to help make this thing a success, which benefits everyone in the Splinterlands ecosystem. So we feel like having the game still run on Hive, but then having the token live on Binance Smart Chain is really the best of both worlds, in the sense that we get all the benefits of Hive for running the game, having the fast and free transactions, everything on the blockchain, user-friendly account names, etc. Plus, now we'll also get access to all the opportunities and capital that's on Binance Smart Chain. And for those of you who are worried about Binance Smart Chain and the centralization of it and controlled by Binance, that's definitely something that everyone should keep in mind and consider and understand the platforms they're using and how they work. But ultimately, I look at it similar to with Steam and Hive, right? It's the community that's important. It's you guys that are important here. And so in some crazy scenario where, Binance tries to, take over the chain and mess with the SPS token or whatever, and it can fork. It could move to Ethereum very easily because they're just forks. BSC is a fork of Ethereum. So if the community decides to move, that can happen, and ultimately where the community goes is where the value will be. So that type of stuff is not really a concern to me as much, and we're really looking at how much opportunity we can get by going to Binance Smart Chain, and you guys will start to see that over the next coming weeks and months, I think, very clearly.
So I'm thinking maybe we do some questions. Does that sound okay?
No, I wasn't going to do questions today.
So we got one from Stealth Trader. I'm looking at this. It's at midnight 42. So for the higher staking entry tournaments, can you give us an idea of the required amount of staked SPS and prize pool for the new tournaments?
We can't really give any numbers for anything right now because so much stuff is you kind of have to just see how it ends up working out. So once we get to the point of starting to add staking requirements for tournaments, we're going to look at how many tokens people have liquid and staked, and we'll see what is a reasonable level. We want to we don't want to make it so we want to make it so it encourages people to maybe stake a little more than they have staked on average, would be my guess. But we don't know what those numbers are going to be. As much as we might do spreadsheets and plan everything, ultimately when things are released and you see what the market does, it's going to be totally different than what we may have projected. So,
and we make adjustments as this stuff goes too. At some point it'll be up to the players through the governance to make their own adjustments. That's kind of the long range plan of that. But at least as we roll this thing out, we're going to use our best judgment and try to figure it out step by step. All right. So he has another question here. When airdrop points, with airdrop points, can we just multiply X times 0.00022, where X equals collection power, to see our daily earnings?
Well, the 0.00022 was, so the key thing is how many airdrop points there are in total. So you have to take your points divided by the total, and then you can find out what your actual SPS airdrop would be for that day. So my estimate in the white paper for the example was 5 billion total airdrop points, which I think is reasonably maybe where we're at. I mean, I put that together maybe like a month or so ago. And as people buy more assets, the total number of points is going to increase. So I look at maybe once the airdrop starts somewhere, 5.5 to 6 billion total airdrop points. So if you take your airdrop points based on the numbers in the document, and then divide it by an estimated total number, which I would say might be in the 5.5 to 6 billion range, and then multiply that times the amount of tokens to be given out that day, you should be able to estimate your airdrop. But again, it's just an estimate, and we have to see, once the airdrop starts, we plan to provide all the data. Every day you'll be able to see all your airdrop points, where they're coming from, what the total is for that day, what your percentage is, and then what your airdrop amount is. But that would be my numbers to use for estimating. I also want to real quick on the last one, Agra brought up something about how many tokens will it take to enter the tournaments and things like that. And it's a good point that while we'll start this initially at values that we think are good, ultimately it'll be up to the token holders to vote if they want to change that. So if the player community doesn't like what we put out, great, you'll be able to submit a proposal, and if enough people agree, it'll just be automatically changed. And that is another point I also mentioned last night, that like at some point going forward, it's not going to be the case where we put out updates every month or whatever that says here are the things that we're going to change. These rewards are going to change this way. This thing's is what we currently do. Instead, whenever we think that something should be changed, we're just going to submit a proposal for the player base to vote on, and then it will just automatically be go into effect once it's approved. So I think that's really like a cool and profound change to like how this whole ecosystem is going to work.
Because it'll be clear that the things that we're putting in come with the consent of the community. And we as lead developers, we often feel like the community is pretty well behind us, but there's just something different to having the stake vote and say, yes, this is a good plan, come do it. And if we're off track, then hopefully the players will tell us that they don't like a change, and we'll figure it out with them. But to give some plan for that, hopefully it'll be clear that there'll be some smart contract that governs what tournaments there are, and you'll be able to look and see, well, in the last smart contract it looked like this, but in this smart contract here are the new numbers. And so it won't just be us describe. It will still have like some proposal or something that describes it overall. But if you want to dive in and see what are they actually changing, hopefully you'll look at the code and be able to say, oh, they changed this requirement to that, but they lowered this collection power there, and now it's earning this, and you'll be able to see that with your own eyes and hopefully follow along to know what we're changing. Next question I saw there was, how much of the 3 billion SPS do you plan on being burned in the first year or two, or 5?
The only thing that we have currently planned that would burn SPS tokens would be there's going to be a small SPS token fee for submitting proposals, which is just necessary to prevent spam proposals, basically, and that type of stuff will be burned. Everything else we have planned in the white paper is more just required certain amounts to be staked. But, that being said, a lot of this, whether or not tokens are burned and how many, can also come down to governance voting by the players. So there's the DAO in the Binance Smart Chain smart contracts. There's a foundation that is going to include a significant amount of tokens, and those tokens, players can vote on how those will be used. They can be used to fund certain things, development of things. They can be used for marketing. They could be used to provide liquidity and earn liquidity provider rewards. They could be used to stake in the game on players and earn rewards that way. So basically, there's going to be this big pool of tokens owned by the DAO, owned by the token holders, owned by all of you. And there could be a proposal to burn some of them, right? You could stake a whole bunch of SPS tokens from the foundation, or provide liquidity and say all the rewards or half the rewards or however many will be burned. And if the community agrees and those proposals pass, then that will be what happens. So I guess initially there's not plans for large burns of the tokens, but that's something that if players want could be voted for.
So Fantasy Crypto is asking, do all land plots have to be claimed when land is revealed, or can they be unclaimed and treated akin to unopened packs?
They can be unclaimed. We're not going to force people to claim them. So it's going to be a 2-part process. So land claims can be redeemed for a specific plot at a specific location on the map. I mean, and that's also not required. You can keep it just as a claim, not tied to a specific plot. But then once you claim your plot, you'll know where it is, but then there's another step where you can go ahead and reveal the land type. So I look at it akin to, like, you turn in your claim at the prospecting office and they say, all right, here's your land. It's over there. Here are the coordinates. But you haven't actually gone and looked at what's there yet, right? If this was like a real life example of this happening. So, and that's to help with land pools, like region pools. A lot of people group together to buy a region or a tract. So that way you can split up, you can claim your region, and you'll know where the region is on the map, and you can split up the tracts or the plots without there being any issue of like, oh, you gave him more legendary plots than I got, etc. It's still going to be all random. So, but again, for all those parts, you're not going to have to redeem your claims. You're not going to have to reveal your land. Maybe some point far in the future, it might get to the point where, like, they might expire, but definitely not anytime in the foreseeable future. So yeah, you can keep that and sell them or trade them or whatever.
This is from Crypto Eater. Will the SPS tokens be tradable as soon as they are released in July?
Yeah, as soon as they're released. I mean, it'll be released as a token on the Binance Smart Chain with the typical bridge into your game account and probably onto Ethereum at the very least. So they'll be tradable just like any normal any normal token, both in the game and on BSC at a minimum.
And a quick note just on Hive Engine, we're adding Binance Smart Chain that was independent of doing this for Splinterlands. So you'll be able to go move your SPS tokens from Binance Smart Chain onto Hive Engine. And if you want them, if we build them on Ethereum too, we're already compatible with that. So that's a quick note from the Hive Engine side of me.
Yeah, and I've already created the Splintershards token on Hive Engine. In fact, it was created probably like a month ago. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but so yeah, so it'll be just tradable and amongst a bunch of different platforms, just like dark energy crystals.
Is there an estimate for the total number of points? You mentioned that. I'm going to skip that one.
We also asked about supplying liquidity.
Okay.
So to be clear, that the team is not going to be supplying liquidity, but the DAO and foundation will likely that will provide liquidity up front to kind of get started. And some of the our partners and token investors that are coming on are also pledging to start providing liquidity on some of the platforms. So it's not us directly doing it, but that's part of what the foundation and DAO, and then any liquidity rewards that are earned from that liquidity will go back into the foundation, which is again owned and controlled by the token holders.
Will there be a way for players to convert SPS into DECs easily from within the game, especially for non-crypto players?
Yeah, I don't see why not, in the sense that we should be able to create it's not a function that Splinterlands is going to provide, but we should be able to
third-party services that interact directly on the site.
Yeah, so we could do a what's it called, the diesel pool. Yep. on Hive Engine for SPS and DEC, and there could be liquidity provider rewards for that, and then we can just provide a quick method in the game. Probably just with the current method, it will just have SPS as one of the tokens in the drop-down list, just like you can trade Hive for DEC. So yeah, and we could even implement that into Pancake Swap or potentially Uniswap within the website.
Julian Pierce is asking, will potions count towards the asset count for airdrops?
Potions do not count for the airdrops. I mean, again, potions are meant to be used for opening packs. So, and the cards that you get from the packs are used. So if you get packs and you open them and use your potions, that will ultimately get you more airdrop points because you'll get more legendary and gold foil cards overall. So that's how potions can be effectively turned into airdrop points and also cards to be used.
Simply Mike is asking, I was listening to last night's AMA and you guys kept mentioning the player base. However, I kept hearing the whales instead. Correct me if I'm wrong, because not everything is 100% clear to me, but I've got the feeling that this entire thing, no matter how great it may be, will mostly allow the whales to keep on whaling and give them even more power than they already have. After all, they will have the most tokens, so they will have the biggest influence. Keep the fish analogy. I'm more than a decent sized orca myself, so I guess I should be happy about that. Thing is that I'm not at the moment. I'm worried that once again, all of this will benefit the top of the food chain and that the effect on the smaller new players will be minimal. Can you please tell me that I'm wrong about this?
Well, and so as far as smaller and new players, I mean, ultimately, this entire thing is about rewarding players. Literally, I mean, there's a lot. We did the land thing, and we did the land presale, and but here it's just like there's nothing for anyone to buy. It's all rewards for players for stuff that they already have, and that will benefit everybody. Obviously, whales and people who have more assets will earn more than people who have less, but still people who have less assets will still be earning more than they would currently. And we hope that would be even pretty significant amounts, like on a percentage basis. So the goal, it's rewarding everyone, but we have to reward everyone proportionally. I mean, it literally just doesn't work like mathematically. If we were to somehow, if we were to make it so the rewards were not proportional to the investment or the number of assets, then it would just encourage everyone to just make hundreds of of dummy accounts and split everything up into those accounts, and that never ends well. So,
and we had some problems with that, but after collection power got in, I haven't seen it to nearly the same extent. Collection power, I think, really did its job of making it so that you had to be in the right like stake weight to be in the class. So like it really made it so that at one point Silver League was being over rewarded, and we just don't see that now. So you can be over rewarded as a player in silver because you're really good, but just the class of silver players versus gold versus anything else, the way that distribution happens is actually really much improved after the collection power got in. So I know you might be hearing the whales, but I think this game will benefit by having new whales come in. But a lot of this is also just about like bringing in brand new players, regardless of how much they want to spend in the ecosystem, because there's value to new people and new people talking about the game. And I don't know. I know you might be hearing whales, but that's not all that Matt and I are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's just simply everyone should benefit proportionally, right? And it has to be proportionally. So yes, whales are going to benefit in proportion to the size of their accounts and assets, and smaller players are gonna benefit, proportionally to the size of their accounts, which will be smaller. But as long as it's not skewed, as long as the proportions are the same, that's what we're going for. And I guess there's two things. There's rewards, and then there's also mentioned like the DAO and the voting. And yes, ultimately, since it's going to be token based, people with more SPS token staked will have more sway and pull. Ultimately, again, for the same reason, there's not any good ways to get around that unless we are doing some like KYC on every person to do like some voter registration thing, which is absolutely we don't want to do. But one thing I'll mention is that with using the Steam Hive debacle as an example, when Steam was first taken over, and there was kind of like a fight for control, I actually couldn't believe that I saw there was literally thousands of people with just very small stakes coming out of the woodwork and voting for witnesses that had never done so before, and it actually was enough to overcome Justin Sun for a little while, to the point where he had to resort to literally bribery to get back in the lead. And even then it was kind of like a 50-50. And it really shows ultimately the smaller people in most voting systems, even in, around the world, not just in crypto, seem to, actually have more power in most cases in combined, when they really all combine together, than the larger players with more money. But what happened? The reality is, in the most cases, a lot of the smaller people just don't care enough, and the whales do, which makes sense because they have more stake and more at stake in the platform. But so I think there's definitely opportunities if like a bunch of the smaller players get together where they can really make changes on their own. And that being said, also, it's the whole system is designed where it's in the whale's best interest to try to encourage new people to come in, and stay as much as possible. So if whales make changes that hurt new players and hurt new player retention, that's ultimately just going to hurt them in the long run. And we're going to do our best to try to make sure that's clear. And if there's any proposals or changes that we're strongly against, we're going to make that very clear, and people can take that into consideration when voting on things.
So speaking of that, I want to ask two more questions, and then Andrew Beatty is here. So I want to finish the questions from Simply Mike and then give Andrew another chance to just say hi to the community. Is it going to be possible to downvote proposals?
So the details of how the voting works are still TBD. And again, that's all something that's subject to be changed by a vote. So if we implement something originally that people don't like, submit a proposal to change it. But a lot of what I've seen in other DAOs is there's probably like a yes/no type of thing. So it's not either you vote for a proposal or you don't, but you can vote for or against it. And then there's different thresholds that can be set for how much it needs to be for versus against in order to pass.
Matt, you're keeping 5 regions total for Team Possible. What's going to happen with the airdrops from those regions? And I don't think they're the only one.
Yeah, a few people asked me about that. That they're in a separate account by themselves, so that account will get the airdropped tokens for those regions, and then it'll just be split among the Team Possible or the people in the pools, however you guys decide that should be split.
All right, so I'm going to take a quick break from the regular questions. I'm going to go, Andrew, you are now no longer server muted in the channel. Maybe you can unmute, and just so you know, I actually can't hear you. So I'm gonna have Matt.
Oh, well, let me see. Sorry.
That's okay. No,
can you hear me okay?
Why don't you?
Oh, I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me. You can hear him.
Can you turn on the sound on your laptop?
I could, but then I'd be in the other room, and then I may not be able to hear you. But that's not the point. The point is, I think it'd be good if you can go ask Andrew a couple questions. And
he can hear you, so go ask.
Yeah. Well, the first one, I can't hear his answers.
Just turn on the sound, and I'm gonna. No, you can stay here. Just turn the sound on right here. No. Listen, wait. Can you guys still hear us? Andrew,
yes.
Can you say something?
Yeah, this is like a Discord Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, we're silly. Okay, so
I love it.
So here's the thing, Andrew is from a company called Side Door Ventures, and they made an investment into Splinterlands. And separately, I don't know if you want to talk about what you did personally, but that would also be cool. Is that something that you're okay talking about?
Sure, yeah. I'm happy to tell everyone how I got here and what I love about what you guys are doing. So
go for it.
And say hi to everyone. So my background is in growing companies. Typically, I guess on paper, I'm attached to 5 startups and growing them from relatively early stages, either 0 or in the single digits of employees, all the way to 600 plus people. I've raised a lot of venture money along the way for different companies, and kind of just helped. My background, like I said, is in scaling companies. But I think the thing that probably unsexy that I get stuck with a lot is often as a fixer. So a lot of VCs will send me in some place to help turn. That's kind of where I think I learned the most. Actually, was where all the other companies went wrong. So that when I was working on my own, we could go faster and I didn't make the same mistakes. So I've done a bunch of turnarounds. One coming out of bankruptcy protection that then raised 50 million and is likely to go public here shortly. Another one that they'd wasted a lot of money on, they being a really large company I won't call out. And you really had to focus on trying to get them turned around in the media space and kind of get them acquired, which occurred. And so there's a lot of things that kind of fill the gaps there that I think have led me here. Along the way, I actually came into the blockchain and crypto space quite accidentally. There was a kid that used to live above me who was writing his thesis on Anonymous in 2011 and told me about Bitcoin. And that's really when I first learned about Bitcoin, and then subsequently got into mining, and then started a crypto club at work. We had like 40 engineers doing really ridiculous things. So we even built like a foosball application that that tracked everything on blockchain for results. And the reason was because all the devs kept logging into the admin panels and the back end and changing their scores. And so it was just like a really kind of weird experience and fun experience along the way. And I then became CEO of a blockchain-enabled music tech company that tracks the number of times a song is played on streaming services. So we work with a lot of the large labels and streaming services. And for that, it was a pretty big technical feat back in 2017, 18. We had built a blockchain that could do 1 million transactions per second per region. And that was pretty tough to do. And we had to do it as a private permission chain, which made things a little easier. But anyway, that's my background is more as an operator growing companies. And then around 5-6 years ago, I started investing in later stage companies. We invest a lot in what we call like Series B, which means like companies that are generally over $100 million in valuations already. And then this last year, we came down and said, okay, we're going to start going after really specific companies that we think have tremendous growth potential that we can then continue to invest in as they get larger. And so that's where we're now coming down into like the Series A and some of these companies that we think are often overlooked, but are like incredible companies. And, that's effectively how I got here. And yeah, I mean, do you want me to?
Yeah. So what made you think that Splinterlands in particular should be counted among those incredible companies? I think you said that you see something like 3,000 pitch decks per year. Like how did we break through all the noise? What about Splinterlands made you say, based off my experience turning companies around and being in blockchain space and building all these blockchains as a part of that team, where did you get the confidence that Splinterlands was a good choice to park your money and to spend your time to help us grow?
It really comes down to two things. I guess the first thing you always look for is team. So and everyone says that, but I actually mean like the team needs to be authentic. They need to have something that they're driving towards. I think that the more I got to know you and the company, the more I realized that you put the community first. And the reality is that large companies are built off strong communities. And so to the extent that you can build a really democratized, like engaged community, the better. And I think that when I look at your community, I look at things that I don't see in other projects. Like, I see a lot of people playing the game and playing it because they love it, not just because they think that this card pack might have more value tomorrow. I think that there's a lot of people who love playing on the platform and can see the potential for other things that you could do with it. I see the potential in other things you could do with it. Like this underlying technology and the way that you've built the gameplay can be used for so many different other verticals. I think of fantasy sports like soccer and football and baseball. I think of all the other types of franchises that could use a similar model for their games and the ecosystems that they can bring this to. I look at you guys and I see a tremendous opportunity and tremendous future platform. And really it came down to you, like you, not everyone knows, but I actually passed the first time. Like I said, like you said, we see 3,000 plus companies a year. We meet with our, probably over 1,000 founders. Roughly we make, 10 investments. So it's pretty hard, I would say, to get more money. It's hard for everyone to get money, but I think that honestly, I just kept waking up and asking myself, I wonder what Splinterlands is doing today. And I would like email you and be like, hey man, how's it going? And I just loved shooting the shit with you. I love talking about crypto. I love talking about your game. I loved playing the game. I just loved everything about what you guys were building and what you guys genuinely were trying to do. And it just kept nagging at me. And I felt like if I did not get involved, this would be the one that would haunt me. And I really just felt like this was the one I could not afford to not do. And I just like for all those reasons, the team, it's what you guys were building, it's the platform potential. But sometimes it just comes down to instinct. I think I have pretty good instincts, and I just think you guys are an A team. And I think that this is gonna blow up. And it's not just like it's easy to invest your own, it's easy to invest fun money, like fun money being like, people give me money to invest. We have LPs, we have returns to make, but my personal money as well. Like, as you know, I'm buying land and I'm doing everything I can on a personal level to be involved with the game also. And I think that this thing has so much incredible potential, and I just want to like help as much as I can see it realized. Hence me being up at 6 a.m. to jump on here and meet the community. I can't think of one other investment I would ever do that for.
Well, we're honored, man. And it has been a lot of fun. I mean, this game, this game just attracts a lot of people that are enthusiastic about crypto, that see a long-term vision, and that, are hopefully motivated by, personal freedom of economic decisions, of international business, that there's something in there that as more and more people understand what we're doing here, and when they realize that they have these assets, they have control, they get to make their choices, that there's something that resonates inside of people that's like, that's the way that gaming ought to be. That's the way that, my property ought to function. And some of that is just crypto based. Some of that is how we build utility into the token. And some of that is just how we value this community. And in everything we do, Matt and I are asking ourselves, how do we get more value to the players, and how do we help them grow?
For sure.
When you think about like the next stage of growth, or what do you think is kind of the next most important thing for us as we cross this chasm from small bootstrap startup to well-funded venture-backed project? What do you think that we need to keep in mind the most as we set our path from stable, steady, functional growth and now more towards trying to blow the hell up?
Yeah, I think the number one thing you can't lose is this community, right? Like everything has to be community first. It is literally like I've been so impressed. Like the fact that you guys are all on this AMA is impressive to me. The fact that people are so engaged in the Discord channels, that everyone's just constantly. Yesterday someone messaged me and said, "Here's 100 ideas, or here's a bunch of ideas that I've thought of that Splinterlands could be great for." That is just so incredible. I can't tell you the amount of companies that have a transaction relationship with their customers or with their users, and then you have like a real actual community around this platform. And that is something that is very difficult to build or manufacture. It has to happen organically, and it has. And I look at this and I just think it's incredible. So you can't lose community. Community has to be the number one focus. I love how detail oriented Matt is. You both are, but like I love how he just thinks through so many different things and how it's going to affect every one of the players, and what we'll do this player if we do this, if we sort of engage this way. And I think that's really incredible to constantly keep the users and the players really at the center of what you're doing. And then the other thing is just really around talent. I think the cool thing about having money is it gives you access to talent. You guys were already profitable. You didn't need my money. I really wanted to participate and find a way to help. And I think part of that help is the heavy lifting that comes with network. And one of the big values that we bring is sort of the massive network we have. A couple of our LPs have sold billion-dollar companies. And so it's kind of like a really amazing opportunity where you can go to them and say, "Hey, I need help finding this person." Like later today, I have a call with one of the first 10 people at Skype that was on like the founding team that took it all the way through the exit. It's like, those are the kinds of guys that with a little bit of money and access, you can start bringing to formalize around a team who've done and seen so many different things that they could say, "Oh, don't do that. We lost $20 million doing it that way," or "This is the problem you're going to see at scale." And so bringing the right talent to the team, I think, is the next kind of growth phase. And that's the exciting part. Like, this is the part where everyone, especially in this community, can say, "Hey, remember back before Splinterlands was like a household name? Like you got like this is going to be the thing that everyone talks about, years from now, about, how early they were with it." And, it's pretty amazing. And I just think that's the part, like building the team, and the sort of access to talent and the access to network will just accelerate how fast this project moves, like incredibly fast.
Okay, so I want to go back to a couple of questions. I'm actually going to have to leave here because I have another venture capital call that starts in 3 minutes. So I'm gonna have to dip. But Andrew, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for advising us. Thank you for investing in us. So thank you for talking to the community about what gets you excited and your passion and your background. And I just hope that the players can hear not only that, like, hey, we have a new partner, but we get this whole network effect that comes with Andrew of other talented people. He's got like a list of 5,000 devs that have been pre-vetted and put in applications and testing and scores, so that as we want to hire it, we don't have to like reinvent all that. We can just pull from that. There's just so much that comes with this, and this is one of the new partners that we're getting, and this SPS token is just bringing home this whole ecosystem of smart people that have been in the space, that have business experience, that have networks to both high net worth individuals, but also just like access to platforms with so many people and so many users, and just new partnerships that we can create through this. So Andrew, thank you for being here. Thank you for being excited about us. I'm thrilled that you can see the value of this community, and it's one of the first things that we've always prioritized here. And that's what I got for today. Matt's going to keep answering some questions here, and then I just want to say thank you to you, to the community, and you guys should wish me luck because I got this other VC call now, and getting more. You know, if we can have not only one Andrew on board, but a whole bunch of them, and they're all sharing that experience, that passion. They're all financially incentivized to see us grow and do well, and bring their network and bring their tools and tooling. I just don't see any way that this company can't thrive and kick ass. So thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really, really love it. I'm going to go mute now and listen to the rest of the questions and answers.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Aggie and Andrew. I'm trying to get back, all set here and figure out where the questions are. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I am trying to find the last question. Okay, so here we are. We're at Coin Miner from 8:30. I'll try to get through, these as quickly as I can, but we'll stay on, for a while longer to go through all this stuff. So question, will dormant accounts be part of the initial SPS airdrop? Will accounts need to have purchased the Spellbook in order to receive the airdrop? So no accounts will, you will not have to have purchased the Spellbook in order to receive the airdrop. I mean, if you have, there's a bunch of people that hold assets in like a holding account that may not have the Spellbook because it doesn't play or do anything. And that's totally fine. If you have assets in the account, you'll still be able to earn through the airdrop. I mean, even if you have assets like in a Wax wallet, or that may not necessarily be associated with an account, you'll be able to claim the airdrop tokens. I mean, you'll have to create an account to claim the tokens, but you'll be able to claim them from that Wax wallet without needing the Spellbook. And every account that holds assets will be able to participate in the airdrop, but you'll have to claim the airdrop. So the tokens won't be put in your account. You'll have to just submit a transaction that claims your tokens. I mean, you don't have to do that every day. You could do it once a month or whenever you want. Just claim all your tokens that will kind of accrue in your account. But so we expect that there's definitely going to be, some accounts that just are totally dormant and don't play, and those tokens will just never be claimed. There's currently not a plan to have those tokens expire. Although it's it's possible at some point down the road with plenty of notice that could happen. But so yeah, whether you're dormant, you don't have to do anything. The tokens will accrue in your account and can be claimed, as long as you hold assets. So Palakari 123 has a similar question. One is a holding account. I think we I think I covered that in the last question. He was asking about if you have collections of cards and holding accounts, you'll still be able to get them. You'll have to claim them through each account though, and you can transfer them after that around anywhere. Your daddy is asking a few questions. First question, are there any plans to discount the land again with a payment partner? No, there's no plans for any more discounted land, although I would say that the relatively small amount of land that's remaining, you can consider to be at a discount, in the sense that once that's sold out, the only way you'll be able to get any land is from other players on the market, and it could potentially be available at much higher prices. So I would consider this any land purchased from us during the sale could be considered to be at a discount, obviously, if things continue to go how they're going. As far as how many monsters will be needed per land tract region to utilize them, that's something, exact numbers or something we haven't decided at all yet. But the general planning is that you won't necessarily need to have monsters or summoners working on the land in order to have the land work and be productive, but adding them will just provide more production bonuses. And as far as how many, can be added is going to be decided as we get to that point in the design. Third question, focusing on land tokens. Do we have tokenomics information? How many tokens will be distributed? Will it be passive or interactive? So none of that information is available yet. It hasn't been fully designed. So all the details of the resources and the land production is, in the early phases of the design process. And that's part of, if you're buying land now, it's part of the understanding that, you're getting in early before all this information is known. And if you want to wait until it's all publicly released and available, you can do that. But we don't, it's up to the market what the prices will be of land at that time. But as far as being passive or interactive, I mean, our goal is that generally it can be, it can be done passively. But there'll be advantages for people who want to put more time and effort into it. So it kind of can cater to the different people's styles, I guess, in that way. Let me see where the next question is. Jarvie is asking question, pools are waiting until land distribution to split up regions. Will that happen before the airdrop? I don't know if, those things will be probably relatively close to each other. But it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter whether it happens before or after. I mean, if you have a region claim, for example, that will count as having 1,000 land plots as far as the airdrop is concerned. And then once you redeem that region claim for the actual 1,000 plots, you'll still get the same airdrop amount. And, we kind of talked about if there's a pool, then whoever holds the region token, that account will get the airdrop tokens and they can be split up, however the pool wants to split them up. Okay, let's see where the next question is. It's helpful because typically while I'm talking, Agro is already finding the next question and is ready to read it, but it's hard to me to do both at the same time. So I apologize for that. Mango Wombo at 911 question, can a proposal increase the amount of SPS token? After 5 years, there are no more, etc. Yeah, so that's the proposals can literally do anything. And so it's kind of hard. We put like some examples in the white paper, but really anything that could be programmed into the smart contracts, the proposals could do. So we're putting the system out in a way that we think is good. But then once the proposals and voting is live, anything and everything can be changed. So if the player base decides that no more SPS tokens should be created after 1 year, they can do that. If they decide after 5 years, I mean, who knows what's going to happen after 5 years? But if the player base decides, hey, we want to create more SPS tokens to do various things, great. If they want to change how the tokens are allocated, awesome. And Splinterlands, like a long-term goal we've kind of talked about, is we want to create more games than just the current card game that we have. We've discussed like potentially a tactics style game. And that would be the type of thing where once that's up and running, we would submit a proposal for new SPS tokens or current SPS tokens to be reallocated to go as incentives for the new game potentially. And, it's up to the SPS token holders. I mean, you guys will be the owners of that token. We will not control it really in any way once the DAO is live. So if you guys think it would be good to include the token in a future game, you could do that. Or even a game that we don't create. If you guys are like, we like this other random game, and you want SPS tokens to be available for that game, I mean, if the SPS token holder community votes for it, then that can happen. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless. There's probably a whole bunch of things that we haven't even thought of yet that you could do. So, moving on. Jarvie looks like a 918. I see. Question: will the distribution of SPS over the coming months and years have variables that will be changeable by the governance system itself? Yes, that's what we talked about. I mean, literally everything is changeable by the governance system. I mean, how it to get a little technical, on the BSC side with the smart contracts work where there's one base smart contract for the token that references other smart contracts for different things. So there's going to be like a separate minting contract that will mint the new tokens based on how it's coded to mint the tokens. And you could submit a proposal to completely replace that minting contract with a new contract that mints tokens in any totally different way that could be coded into a smart contract. So it's really very modular, and it allows the token holders to really do pretty much anything as far as the voting is concerned. Your daddy's asking, did the private sale already happen, or is that referring to the airdrop? No, the private sale is separate from the airdrop, and that's what we've been talking about with people like Andrew Beatty and other investors, who are coming in to participate in that. And I think, so typically in the past when we've released new things, it was, the player base is the one who commits the funds to buy those new things and to fund the development of those new things. And here it's totally different, where we're going to outside developers putting new money into the game, and being on Binance Smart Chain is really enabling that to happen. And the current existing players who have already put money into the game are the beneficiaries of that. And it's cool to note that the token sale, these investors are buying the token. They're investing in the token, which is different than investing in Splinterlands, the company. So they're directly financially incentivized to make sure the token does well. And you guys are the owners of the tokens, and the DAO and all of that. So all the investors coming in from the private sale is directly benefiting the players, and only indirectly benefiting Splinterlands, the company. So that's why, I approach all of this not as the creator of Splinterlands, but I approach everything we do as a player of Splinterlands, always. So this is like, we always have to, in general, we have to make sure the company's okay and sustainable, because as a player, if the company goes away, that would suck, and development would stop. But now we're finally in a position where, the company is set, we're good for a long time, regardless of what happens with crypto. And so now we're like, great, we don't have to worry about that anymore. Now, as a player, what is the best thing we can do to just increase, to just make cool stuff in the game, increase the value of the assets and all that stuff. So that's what you're seeing right now. It's like the business side is pretty taken care of for the first time since we started the game, pretty much. And it's now 100% focus on, all right, we move ahead as making the coolest thing we can for the players and the player base. So that was kind of a long-winded answer to that question. So moving on, random, cool name, question. Any thoughts on fusion cards, combining two different cards in the same splinter in the future to repurpose some of the high circulation and lesser used common and rare cards? No, we haven't really thought about that. That is definitely a cool idea. I think first, before we would do stuff like that, there's the land expansion, which we expect will be a pretty big utility and use case for the lesser used cards. So, we'll see. But I think fusion of different cards into kind of some type of new card is definitely a cool idea, but not something we've kind of thought about or had on the table. Question will be, there be another Kickstarter or large presale in the future for Chaos, or are we past those? There'll definitely be some type of launch event for Chaos Legion with presale pricing. Whether it's on Kickstarter or not, I have absolutely no idea. There's just so much going on. Like we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But there's definitely going to be some type of event with presale pricing and benefits. But that would probably require, like, the benefits would require SPS tokens at that point. That might be one of the first things where you get benefits, you get better pricing, or you get more bonus packs or whatever it is, promo cards for having SPS tokens staked. So, if you are planning to take advantage of that, stake your SPS tokens is what I would say. NoTac is asking a question: do you need to pay the BSC gas fees to vote, or there'll be a way to vote on hive.splinterlands.com for free? So that's a great question. There's actually going to be two separate ways for voting. So there's voting for changes to the DAO itself, how the token is actually created, how it's distributed, how the DAO smart contracts work. And for that, yes, you will need to submit transactions on Binance Smart Chain, have a Binance Smart Chain wallet, and have BNB tokens in order to pay the gas fees. Now, gas fees are very small, in the order of like 10 cents or so per transaction, but you'll need that for that. However, if for any in-game governance things, for changing, tournaments, in-game rewards, card stats, whatever, that will all happen on Hive within Splinterlands. So you won't even need to have a Binance Smart Chain wallet at all to participate in that. So those are the two separate kind of voting things. Revised Sociology says, I noticed from Neil's calculator that DEC staked in LPs is weighted 2 times for the airdrop. Does that include DEC staked in Cub? Yes. So the DEC staked in LPs is worth 2 times regular DEC, because to stake it as a liquidity provider, you also have to put up the same value of another token. So you're putting up twice the dollar value there. So that's why you get twice the reward. And the reward is based on the amount of dark energy crystals you have staked. So still the value per dark energy crystal is the same in a liquidity pool as, just holding liquid dark energy crystals, but you're also getting, credited for the fact that you have to put in that other asset in the pool. And it will include DEC staked in the Cub BSC pool, definitely. So it'll include Uniswap, Cub, and the Diesel pool. I guess those are the only 3 pools that exist currently. Well, there's 2 on Ethereum, so both of them count. And is July realistic for this? So July is only for launching the token and starting the airdrop. So definitely, all of this is not going to be live in July. There's the roadmap in the white paper where you can see the estimated, I'll highlight estimated timelines for all this stuff. But I think it's definitely no problem, getting the basic token created and the airdrops going. That part should be relatively simple. So yeah, July should be totally realistic for that. But that it won't really do anything yet at that point. And as slowly over time, we'll start adding in the rewards and the staking and all that, and the DAO and all that stuff. Okay, let's find the next question. Unit QM 943 question: what happens if the community is 50-50 split on a proposal, i.e. the community seems pretty split on bots? Yeah, I mean, there will be it will be clearly defined in the code what is required for a proposal to pass. And so it either meets the requirements and is approved, or it doesn't and is not approved. And there shouldn't be any gray area there. And then, ultimately, if people feel like those the requirements for approval are not good, then there can be a proposal to change the requirements for approval. And if that's approved, then it will be changed. So, and ultimately all these things, there's going to be stuff that comes up that we didn't anticipate. I mean, that's just life. And we'll take it as it comes, as we always do. So there's some bots discussion as always. Jarvy's asking a question: can you transfer airdrop tokens? Will they be on Splinterlands and free transfer transactions? So yeah, I mean, it's going to work just like dark energy crystals are now. So the airdrop tokens are going to be claimable on the Hive blockchain using your Splinterlands account, just like doing anything else in Splinterlands game. You'll be able to transfer them to other players, to other Splinterlands accounts within the game with no transaction fees. And you will be able to also transfer them to external wallets on Binance Smart Chain and possibly others, the Hive engine definitely, just like you can with dark energy crystals right now. So that should be how all that works. Okay, Cryptomancer's pasting a question here that was originally from Forever Average. Can cards get their stats changed after they were released due to this voting system? Could it happen that I spend a lot of money on a certain card? Could that card get nerfed on demand, jeopardizing the value and the investment? Well, so yes. So currently, I mean, we try to avoid at all costs changing the stats on cards, but yes, stats on cards can be changed currently. And right now, it's just by us. And if we decide to do that, which we obviously take into account, the player, what the wishes of the player community are for that, but generally try to avoid it. But so that's just going to move from being just whatever we decide to what the player community decides. But yeah, it's anything really can happen, and that's part of a game being owned and controlled by the players. And it could be, it could be the case that card stats are never able to be changed. But we also, that's not generally good for the game either, because as much as you might try to create balanced cards, it's super, super hard, especially as more and more features and more cards are rolled out. So I think it's important for any game, Magic, Hearthstone, you name it. Sometimes stats do have to be changed. So we'll see how that goes. But I think it's just great that that's going to be moved from what we decide to what the player community decides. All right, we are coming. I'll be here for like 10 more minutes till 10:30 Eastern. Keep answering questions. I can also just talk about more stuff that I'm excited about until then, and then we'll wrap it up for today. So Jarvie has a question. Will private investors be participating in governance votes on DAO and game decisions? Will Splinterlands team be doing that as well? So yeah, anyone who has the tokens is able to participate in governance votes and decisions. And the Splinterlands team will be receiving, there's a pool for the team, which we'll be mostly using to incentivize team members. It's not like just me and Aggro get it all. We probably will get little, if not none of those. And it's just used to help, incentivize people to come on board. I mean, we're forgetting developers, we're competing with not only other big blockchain projects, Coinbase, other big companies. We're just competing against Amazon and Google and Apple and Facebook for people. So, part of, in addition to regular compensation and benefits, having, tokens that we can use as compensation is important. And just like any tokens, those will be usable in governance voting. Now, for both the private investors and team tokens, there are lockup periods for the tokens. So it's not like they're just going to get a whole bunch on day one. They're going to be locked up for a period of time. And also the actual governance voting is not going to be starting for a while. I mean, we anticipate the DAO being set up like, kind of early next year type of thing. And we hope to start some of the governance voting in game before then. So by that point, the vast majority of the tokens will be in players' hands through the airdrops and the play to earn. So if the concern there is that like, oh, these private investors who aren't part of the player base are like coming in and affecting the voting, they're by the time the voting starts, I think the majority of them are probably not going to be interested in the daily voting on like in-game stuff. But even if they are, they're not going to have a majority of the tokens. I mean, only like 6% of the total tokens are going to the private sale. And like I said, the team tokens are going to be over time given out as rewards. But, separately from the team token allocation, the team members typically also have a lot of assets in the game and will be receiving, airdrop rewards just like everybody else for our assets. And yeah, we definitely will be using those to participate in governance. And, because like I said, we are first and foremost players of the game. So we want to participate in the governance just like I like buying cards and playing. and helping move the game in the direction we want to move it. Let's see, where were we here? Kiyokiz question: SPT utility has been mentioned a few times for future purchase of cosmetics. Any thought of adding it in the short term with the current skin set, which hasn't seen much take up? The same answer always for SPT utility. Definitely really want to do it, but we have to focus our resources on the things that are the highest priority and bring the most value for everyone in the ecosystem. And so far that hasn't been one of those things. So we'll see. We're hoping to get more people on board. I think that's the type of thing that might be a good project for like a new developer to start getting their feet wet with something that's not like mission critical. So I kind of keep some of those type of projects in mind for like new people as something they can like start out with. So it could potentially happen, but depends on priorities and resources. For freedom, can it be set up that different types of proposals will require more than a simple majority vote? Like card stat changes, IMO should require more than 51% to pass. Yeah, so I don't know exactly what the details would be, but I think it's pretty standard in a lot of DAOs that's not just 51%. And it's possible that different types of proposals could be set with different thresholds. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I would think we would, for a lot of things, we'd probably want at least like 2/3 majority or something like that. So we'll see. And again, if it whatever is initially implemented isn't great, then we'll make a proposal to change it. Dave McCoy question: how much weight do you think the existing community will have in voting proposals relative to new investors? I think may have a fear that big investors will muscle out the community whales like the Matt Clarks and Neil McSpaddens, who are great community supporters and trusted to care about the game. So kind of addressed this a little bit before, but it is an important point. Our expectation is that the investors, most of them, which, they're not just like these random people coming in, who are like, just like, oh, we're just going to buy this token and just like dump it and mess with the game or who knows what they're going to do. These are people who we've talked to a number of times and who are like very excited about Splinterlands and wanting to make this thing successful. And so I don't think they're really generally going to be involved or caring that much about the in-game governance voting itself, as much as like just really helping grow the ecosystem kind of from the outside. And on top of that, they also are, the private sale is like 6.6% of the token supply. So, even if they somehow all got together and decided to vote together on something, which is also extremely unlikely, I think it would be, they will still have a much smaller stake than even a portion of the community. So yeah, that's and also it's I think Agro might have mentioned this, but we've limited the size that any individual investor in the private sale is able to get. So no one's it's not like one person buying up the majority of the private sale. It's relatively small allocations split among a whole bunch of different strategic partners. So we just wanted to get as many different influencers or VC firms or crypto funds or other crypto projects. We want as many of them to be invested in this as possible, because that's just more and more people pushing it out to more and more networks and, like Twitter and Facebook and other social media. Like, so it's split up in relatively small increments among a pretty large number of people. So I don't, we absolutely don't want that to be the case. And I don't think that will be a problem at all. Question from Cryptomancer. In other DAOs, I've seen situations where only a small amount of token holders actually vote, make it difficult for proposals to pass. Will there be configurable thresholds requiring minimum amount of votes, or will it be a straight up percent of the votes for and against? Yeah, I mean, everything will be configurable. So that's the type of thing we're going to have to kind of see how it plays out. But yeah, ultimately participation is just super, super important when it comes to governance voting. I talked about like the example on Steam with the takeover, how like all of a sudden thousands of people came out of the woodwork that we didn't even know like existed or were still around to vote, and cumulatively, we're able to have a real impact. But participation is like the most important thing in every voting system, whether it's like democratic voting system for presidents or anything. That's also a big reason why Binance Smart Chain was chosen over Ethereum, because obviously if there was $10 worth of gas fees for a vote, you're going to have way fewer people voting, and then it's again comes down to like mostly the whales, and the smaller people are like, well, I have less than $10 worth of SPS tokens. Why am I going to spend $10 to use them to vote? We don't want that to be the case. So with in-game voting, which would be things like card stats and most of the stuff you guys are probably more concerned about, there will be no fees. It'll be very easy for people. There'll be pop-ups in the game and very obvious when there's new proposals to be voted on. So we really want to do everything we can to encourage as much participation as possible. And then on the BSC side, it is going to require a BSC wallet. It is going to require some BNB for gas fees. So things, thresholds and percentages may be different for that type of voting than in-game voting. But ultimately, everything is configurable, and if something's not working, then we change it, or we put up a proposal to change it. Dr. B or DRBE is asking, will there be transparency about the private sale and private partnership allocations once everything is set in place? That is my plan. So to start, we're working with Blockchain Founders Fund is really the ones who are helping to put together the private sale and kind of making a lot of this happen. So it's still ongoing and it hasn't been completed. So we're not, I don't want to talk about it much yet. But ultimately, yes, I don't see any reason why we won't have full transparency on everything that has happened. I mean, some of the specific investors may want to remain anonymous, which is fine. But other than that, everything should be publicly released in the not too distant future once that's all figured out and done. I missed a question from Jarvie. Is there a going rate for SPS on investor side? There is, but we're not talking about that publicly yet. I think it's on the lower end, and I hope to see the token increase in value significantly from there to reward both the investors and the players. Okay. So, it's 10:31. No more questions. Good timing. Want to say, as always, a huge thank you to everyone. I really hope that you guys are as excited as we are about this. I mean, as a player of the game, this is all part of what I've wanted since 2017, when this whole thing was just like a cool idea. And now that we have the resources and connections to start really putting this together, like I'm super excited as a player of the game. I almost that's it. Like this is what I want. This is what I want to play. I wish this stuff was out and released right now. So I hope that you guys are as excited as we are about it. And obviously none of this would be possible without you guys. And, the player base, just to emphasize this, you guys are going to be the owners of this SPS token and the DAO and everything that entails. So it is not going to be us saying, here's what it is, here's how it works. We'll set it up initially, but it's all totally up to the player base. All the private investors that are coming in, they're investing in the token and DAO that you guys are part owners of. So all that value goes directly to you and only indirectly to Splinterlands, the company, which is ultimately how it should be. And I guess if there's one message that we want to get across, it's that. And make sure everybody understands that. Because it's huge. It's something that it certainly never ever happened in any traditional game. And it's even still rare in the crypto and blockchain world. So this is going to be the start of something real special, in my opinion. All right, thank you everybody, and we will talk to you later.